So what we're going to do this morning is I'm going to walk through just a very brief overview PowerPoint, and then we're going to talk a little bit about more cost online, value Armour, and then, like I said, open it up for questions. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So Courthouse USA, we're here to help enhance the quality of appraisals. So what's our mission? We're here, we provide tools to help create independent values. We do that through multiple approaches to value. So our mission is to provide easy access to the best data and tools available to help enhance the quality of appraisals. And we certainly believe by helping to add support and credibility to appraisals, we're helping to ensure fair and equitable taxation, which in turn promotes negotiation and litigation when appeals time comes. I think both sides of the fence would agree negotiation is going to be better than litigation. So who are we? I didn't want to, just for the sake of time, I didn't want to put detailed bios about everybody here, but I did want to point out that this isn't something new to us. The three people here, myself, as I said, I'm Billy Burley, we've got Marlene Jeffers and Pat O'Connor. All three of us have spent nearly all, if not all, of our entire professional careers within the appraisal and assessment industry. We've got a very deep, diverse background within that niche. So together we have well over 100 years experience in appraisal assessment, mass appraisal, statistical analysis, modeling, GIS and mapping related to assessments, and real estate. But we're not here to talk about us, we're here to talk about the products, right? What we can do to help you. So here's what we're going to talk about product-wise, are the two different approaches to value. We've got the market approach, and that's Value Armour. And there's two flavors of Value Armour. There's Value Armour Standard and Value Armour Gold. And we're going to go very detailed into both of those here in a little bit. And then we've got the cost approach, which is more cost online. So to talk about the cost approach first, more cost online is an online and on-demand cost calculator. It's going to help you figure out the cost, replacement cost new, and replacement cost new less depreciation of commercial and industrial buildings. So the calculator steps through a logical sequence to define the structure first and incorporate occupancy within the defined areas. And I'll show you some examples and a little bit of what you get in the report. And then after that, we're going to talk about Value Armour. As I said, we'll go a little deeper into Value Armour. But Value Armour is essentially a data visualization and analysis tool that provides easy access to statewide commercial data and sales. And that's going to allow you to do things like filter to find comparable properties. And those are comparable properties across an entire state. You can also look at sales ratio analysis to help identify outliers, find properties that are potentially over or under assessed. And you can export those results to Excel. And then there's AVM values, and those are in the gold version. Like I said, we'll go over that in more detail. So we're going to first go over more cost online. As I said, more cost online is an online and on-demand commercial cost calculator. We built it for those that may be having trouble with costing a particular property, or if you just want a second opinion. Either way, we feel like you're in luck because we've created something that's going to be very helpful to you. So what you can do is you can now generate a detailed cost approach value estimate, and the cost is only $25 per building. And here's how it works. So you key in descriptive elements of commercial and industrial structures for each building section, floor level, size, perimeter, structure type, wall height, extra features, and then the use finishes and sizes. And I'm going to zoom in here just a moment on these right screens so you can see them a little better, because this is what the cost calculator looks like. You'll see it's a web-based app. You've got your data entry fields. And up top here, you'll see there's a step 1, step 2 through 6. So it's a very easy to follow kind of step-by-step process that'll lead you along the way. So first step is you enter the building information. I'll enter all the information, and then the system will prompt you to go to the next step, which is then enter section information. So you can enter multiple sections. And you'll see on the right, it even shows you kind of where you are in that process. So once you go through and you add section, levels, uses, and so on, oh, and I almost forgot, you can also add depreciation. So it allows you to add different depreciations, functional, economic, and physical, to be applied separately to the shell structure and to each finished use area. And what the result ends up being is these reports. You get a replacement cost new, quality and location adjusted report, as well as a cost approach estimated value report. And like we said earlier, those are only $25 per building. And these are the two reports you're looking at. They're obviously very simple. These were very simple kind of square or rectangle buildings. I'm going to show you something a little more detailed here, just to give you an example. This is another report. This is a true report that was done with a client, and this is akin to healthcare in, I believe, Indiana. So you'll see the report's a little bit more detailed. You've got multiple floors. They had 3 floors entered, and you'll see the replacement cost new column, the depreciation column once it's applied, as well as the replacement cost new less depreciation. There's the various sections, there's the improvements, and you'll see the extra features, things like sprinkler systems, elevators, canopies, parking lots, and so on. Those are all also added to the report. And at the end of the day, you end up with a estimated total value. This particular one is about $6.6 million, and you can see it broken down per square foot for the improvements and the land value. So that's More Cost Online. To access this, you simply go to morecostonline.com, and you'll register as a user, and then you can go in and see all that More Cost Online offers you. We'll say the first report is actually free. So it's a great way to give it a try, grab a property record card of a building you may be working on, and just try it out. Let us know what you think. After that, it's only $25 per report. Now we're going to go spend the rest of our time talking about Value Armor. That was really kind of the main purpose of the webinar. But we're going to make you aware of other tools that we're promoting right now. So Value Armor, it's a web-based product, just like More Cost Online, which means you don't need software to run it. All you need is an internet browser. And it does a really great job of organizing all this data and making it accessible, as well as providing the tools to make the data useful. And before I get into it, I'll talk a little about that data. So you'll see we've got up here, we've got 247,000 data points. That's all commercial property. We acquire that from the Department of Revenue in Florida. So we take the data for each county. We go through some standardization and cleanup processes just to make the data more user-friendly. So things like we clean up the owner names. For instance, Walmart. A lot of times Walmart is in the database is Walmart store 245 or Walmart store 33. We clean those up and make them sure they're all Walmart to make it easier to search by. We also add things that aren't in the data, things like property age. The data's got year built, but doesn't have property age, so we calculate property age. We also calculate things like sales ratios. So there's a lot of work we do to clean up the data and, again, make it more user-friendly and really more useful to our users. So as far as the application, I'm going to walk through just a quick kind of tour of the interface before we get into the use cases of it. So the first thing you'll notice is obviously we've got a map of Florida. We've also got all these charts around the periphery of the application. These charts are all interactive, and you'll see what I mean by that as we walk through this. This top chart, property type, that's an important one because that one actually dictates the colors of the points you'll see. So as I zoom in, you'll start seeing these points appear, and they're colored. So I've got pink point here, green, red, and those are, again, dictated by this top chart. So the green ones are industrial, the red ones are lodging, and the pink ones are retail. So that way you know exactly what you're looking at. You know, just from a glance, that, nope, that's a hotel, that's industrial, that's retail. The rest of these charts, most of them are pretty self-explanatory. Property use is a little bit more granular look at the use of the property. Owner name, it's a text search. You can search by owner name. And then the rest of these are just point-and-click charts. Sales, property age, total square foot, sales price, appraised value. And then you've got the sales ratio chart out here to the right. And that you'll see as we walk through this, that dynamically changes based on the parcels or the points you have selected. We also have this 3-bar menu. So if I pop that little button out, I can turn off and on layers. I can also turn off and on charts. So if the sales ratio is 1 and maybe you're not interested at the moment and you want to clear that off the screen, you simply click that button there, it goes away. If you ever want it back, bring it back. Filters, I'll show that in a moment. Preferences. So you'll see a cluster distance here, which kind of a good lead into, I want to talk about clusters just for a moment. Because another thing you notice right when you look at the map is I've got all these kind of large circles with numbers in them. So what those circles represent is the clustered data. So you can imagine if we took 247,000 properties or points and just put them on the map, it's going to be a cluttered mess. And it's not going to be very useful. So we cluster the data to bring points that are within close proximity together. And you'll see as I hover over one of these clusters, you'll see a blue box draw around it. That blue box represents the geographic extent of those points. So in this case, it says 4,200 points fall within that blue box. As you zoom in, now the data just kind of starts declustering on its own. Now, once you start going through filters and you have less than 250,000 parcels, is where you can come in here and change the cluster distance. So I can just simply change that to, let's say, a 1. And as you zoom in, then you'll see a lot more of the points show up. But the point is you can change that at any time to whatever you like. We like to have the default around 45 or 50. Okay, so that's kind of the nickel tour of the interface. Now let's go into more details about how you can use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus first on one county. So all you do, if you want to look at just one county's worth of data, you simply select that county. So I'm going to select Volusia. Here we've got about 9,600, a little over 9,600 points in Volusia County. Now I can look at this property type chart, and we can start filtering this data. So my first filter is I want to do something very high level, something like maybe office buildings. So all I have to do is either click right here on office, or I can just click on the chart itself. And now I'm looking at the 2,300 office complexes within the database in Volusia County. Now, maybe I want to look at the ones that have sold in the last couple of years. I just simply click the sales years. Now I've got 127 of them that have sold in Volusia County. You'll notice the sales ratio chart, as I mentioned earlier, is changing each time I make a selection. So these 127 points, here's where they fall within a sales ratio. And that sales ratio is as most of you know, the appraised value versus the sales price. So what I can do is look at this and say, well, there's 87 of those fall probably within the acceptable range of where they should be based on state standards. However, I've got some that are on the low side, And if you click on any point, I should have mentioned that earlier, if you click on any point, you'll see the information about that particular point. So in this case, this one's undervalued. I can look at all the information. I can look at the appraised value, $89,000. However, the sales price is $290,000 at this point, which is giving me a low sales ratio. I can also look at the other side. I want to focus on the ones that are essentially over-assessed. I can look at these three and see that this particular one, assessed value is $76,000. However, it only sold for $53,000. Pretty big difference. Maybe I want to isolate just this one that's way out of whack. This one's got a sales ratio of almost 4. If I take a look at this, the assessed value is $226,000. However, it sold in 2016 for $61,000. So there might be something really off there, and there might not be. We don't typically try and make judgment calls on what's right or wrong. We're here to offer visualization to help show indicators. Show an indicator that the data just doesn't quite jive right here, and it's something that somebody should look at. Now, when we're talking to the government agency, we're telling them that. They should just quickly identify these and find out which ones may have issues. Yeah, that's looking at property types. That's the highest level. Now, if we want to go a little bit more granular, we can do that. And I'm going to keep my sales year selected here. And I'm going to go look at something, like I said, a little bit more detailed. Let's look at something like supermarkets. So I hit apply, and here there's 2 supermarkets that have sold in the last few years within this county. And I can see where the sales ratios are. Again, this one looks like it's on the high side. It's not super high, no pun intended, but it's a little bit on the high side. Now in this case, we look at both of these. If I zoom out here and I put them into one, if you zoom out, they'll go into a cluster. I can click that clustered point, and now I can look at the information side by side, which sometimes is awfully handy. And I can see here the year built for these 2. One is 2015, one is 1969. And the square footage, big difference in those as well. So if I'm looking at a particular property, I'm looking at this one, that's the older property, it's 48 years old. This other property is not actually a true comp, is it, for that particular supermarket? So this is where really the power of Value Armor comes in, that if you're looking at single county data, obviously Volusia has a GIS website. You can go out there and search for these type of properties, but you're kind of stuck within their box. If you're looking for comps outside of Volusia County, then sure, you can go to the counties that surround them, go to their particular GIS website, search for it, go to another county, search for it. You can do that, it's just not very efficient or probably good use of your time. So if I'm looking for additional comps here, all I have to do in Value Armor is deselect that county, and now you'll see I went from 2 to 74. So I have 74 supermarkets that have sold in the state. But remember, we're looking for ones that are a little bit older. So I can go and start filtering the data to find something more comparable. So in this case, let's look for properties, let's say between 30 and 57 years old. Here I've got 32. This particular property was also smaller. It was under 17,000 square feet. So now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to properties that are probably going to be a lot more comparable. We've got 26 across the state. These ones way out here on the Panhandle may not be of interest to you, or even the ones down south. But we're in luck. We've got several kind of right in this general area. So now what I can do is I just want to select the ones in these 3 counties. So I can hit my draw polygon box, and I can lasso the points I want. And now I've got the 4 properties, my subject, and 3 potential comps. As we did before, you can zoom out real quick, look at it in this kind of spreadsheet type view, and then you can hit export right here, or back to my menu, hit export, export attribute data. So now I can look at the data in Excel format, which once it's in Excel, obviously you can do lots of things with it. I can then sort the data, I can look at it side by side, I can even add my own calculations if I choose to. This particular one, there's our supermarket we were looking at. Here's the other three. So, thinking data from an application into Excel and then just opening up tons of possibilities with Excel is always a good thing. So we're going to make sure the data can come out and be portable to you. Now earlier when I was doing our little tour, I mentioned I'd come back to the filters. This is a good place to show that. So in this case, I would say I've gone through and I've done quite a bit of filtering. Now I'm done. I've done what I want to do and I want to start over. I can either just go through and hit refresh on each of these charts, or I can simply go to the menu and hit reset all. And that's my wipe the slate clean button. I'm starting over. So now we're back to square one. So now what we're going to look at is, that's looking at a single county. Now let's look at things from kind of a state level. So just like we did for the office complex and office complexes in Volusia, I can look at a particular property type across the state. Let's look at industrial properties. We've got 55,000 of them. Let's look at industrial properties that have sold in the last few years. We've got 2,800 of them. Now let's say I'm looking for industrial properties that have sold that are fairly new. Let's say we're looking for ones that are under 14 years old. And I'm looking for the largest ones, the ones that are over 120,000 square feet. So now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at 16 points across the state. Again, these are industrial properties that have sold in the last 3 years that are under 14 years old and that are over 120,000 square feet. We've identified those 16 and we did it literally in a matter of 4 or 5 clicks. So that's where we talk about the power of visualization, the power of these filters, and making this data useful. So from here, I can now look at these 16, and you can see that, well, these tend to be under-assessed, it looks like. You've got 5 that are close to where they should be, and you've got 10, 11. 11 that's all on the wrong side. Now let's do another quick example. Let's hit reset all. And just like we did with the property type, now let's go a little bit more granular again. And let's look at something like community shopping centers. Let's say we've got 7,200 of them, roughly. Let's look at the one 316 community shopping centers have sold. And now maybe I just want to do a quick look at where are there maybe potential outliers. If I'm focusing on properties that are either under-assessed or overassessed, where are those at? So let's look at the overassessed. And there's 10 of them, so it's 10 community shopping centers that probably need to be reviewed. Just grab one real quick. And that one, the sales ratio is 1.149, so that's just a little bit over where it should be. Let's look at some of these. So here we've got, again, these sales ratios are 1.6, 1.5, 1.4. So those are ones that are potentially overassessed. You can do the same thing for underassessed. Or if you're looking for properties that are right where they should be, if you're looking for certain comps, you can do that as well. And I can keep going. I mean, there's obviously, you can do just a ton of, I mean, every possibility you can imagine, every combination of charts. I haven't calculated how many possibilities there are, but there's more than I can calculate probably on looking at property types, property uses, and then looking at these bottom charts to filter those based on what you're looking for. We'll reset one more time. And let's talk about owner name a little bit. So everything I've done so far has been on property type or property use. There may be a time we are also looking for particular owners or particular buildings. This is where the owner name comes in. So let's say I want to search for Lowe's Home Improvement Centers. In the text search, I just start typing and it'll start showing me my possibilities. As I get closer, I got Lowe's Home Centers. And this is back to the thing I mentioned earlier that when we look at the database, there's a ton of Lowe's. Sometimes they're misspelled. Sometimes it's Lowe's Home Center Inc. Or sometimes it's Lowe's store number 123. This is where we go through and we make sure that they're all called Lowe's Home Centers, just so it's easier for you to find them. I simply click apply. There's 100 Lowe's across the state. And you can also do multiple ones. So if I wanted to also do the Home Depots, I'm focused on building improvement stores for some reason, I can then type in Home Depot, add it to the list, so you can keep actually adding different owners at the same time. Another example that we all know would be Walmart. There's Walmart stores, hit apply, 240 Walmarts across the state. So again, we wanted to make sure you have access to the data you're looking for in the fastest way possible. Whether you're looking for all the Walmarts across the state or you're looking for all the industrial properties that match several criteria, we want to get to you that information as fast as possible. And I think we're doing that. Another point to make here is when I search for all the Walmarts, there's 240 of them. However, you'll notice my top chart, I've got some different colors here. I've got green. So if I click that green, there's actually several Walmarts that are coded industrial. Now, sometimes that's okay because sometimes that Walmart falls in an industrial area and that's the way they code it. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just wrong. This one I would guess would be wrong, and that it's called lodging. I'm sure at some point somebody's spent the night in a Walmart, but they don't encourage that. So anyway, so the visualization helps also find out where there might be issues in the data, and that's not issues in our data, that's issues in the county's data. That means if it's here and a Walmart's coded as a hotel, that's because the county appraiser has it coded as a hotel, and that may actually be having a adverse effect on the value, and when their systems crunch numbers, and maybe taking that into account. So that's something important to know, especially if you're representing those clients. So that's kind of a quick tour of Value Armour Standard. Now what I want to do is I want to go into Value Armour Gold. And we're not going to go through the same process we just did because the tools and the charts work the same. So there's no need to go through the same examples. But there's just a couple things I did want to point out about Value Armour Gold. The main difference is Value Armour Gold includes AVM values. It includes AVM values for almost 100,000 points across the state. Those values come from Patrick O'Connor, who is a very established, very reputable modeler within the assessment community. And so he's added these values to these properties. Why that's important is that when you look at Value Armour Standard, if you're looking at things like sales ratios and you're trying to identify properties that may be over or under assessed, you can only look at the ones that have sales. So if I don't have a sale on a particular property, like a Walmart, I'm not going to have a sales ratio for it because there's no sale to compare to the just value. When I'm looking at Value Armour Gold, I know that these properties all have a value attached to it, a market value estimate. So then what that allows me to do is always see this new chart here, which is the appraised to the market value. And that helps me identify where things may be different. So I'll just walk through just a couple quick examples, and let's do this at the state level. Let's look at something like apartments. There's 9,000 apartments. And again, this appraised to sales is only going to be interesting or going to be really valid to me if I select a sales year. However, my appraised AVM is always valid. So then I would say I want to look at apartments in a particular category that might be overassessed. And here I've got 342 of them that are within this particular range. I look at a couple of these, I can then see that the appraised values here, this one's about 4.4 million. However, Pat's model, and we can, if you guys have questions about the model, we can answer those here in a little bit, or I can provide information after the fact on how the model is working. But the model produces a value of 3.4. So $1 million difference, kind of a big difference there. So their property here, looking at the difference between 1.6 and 1.2. So, and just like Value Armour Standard, you're looking at sales ratios appraised first sales. And this way you can do that as well as look at appraised first AVM values. Another thing that's kind of neat about this, let me refresh my charts, get back to the 98,000 points. Maybe I want to look at just a, I want to do a quick check across the board, which property types may be more likely to be overassessed. So if I come over to my appraised AVM chart, and let's select these properties, that fall within a certain range, so they're on the far side of the your standard deviation, your bell chart. These go from 1.07 up to ratios. Now I can see there's 18,000 of them that fall within that side. But the nice thing also is I can look at this chart on the top, this property type chart, and the chart will tell me which ones have the most. So something like terminals, there's 100 of them. Something like restaurants, entertainment. So those are, a pretty small piece of the pie, as we say. However, I can look at things like retail, office, and industrial. Those are your biggest offenders. On their side, you can do the same thing. Let's say I want to look at the ones that are potentially under. And I can look at, in this case, office is not so much under as much. However, retail and industrial, there's properties there that are under. So it's a great way to do a quick check and figure out if I'm focusing on one of those two areas, where I should focus my time. Should I focus them on the retail side, on the office side, and geographically, where should I focus them on if you're looking from a statewide perspective?